I wasn't supposed to come home with the wrong jacket. That's how it started. Not with a fight, not with a missed call, not with anything dramatic. Just a tired man, fumbling through the chaos of a return flight, grabbing what looked like his navy wool coat from the carousel of identical bags and weary travelers. It was late, I was half asleep, and it was cold outside. I didn't notice the weight difference. I didn't think twice about it. Not until the next morning. I was in the hallway reaching into the coat for my earbuds before heading out to walk the dog. Instead, I pulled out a napkin. Folded twice, soft and worn at the edges. My first thought was that it had been used, something spilled at a bar or maybe a snack wrapper. But then I unfolded it. 2 red lipstick marks. Kissed right into the paper. And beneath them a note written in neat, looping cursive. Joanna, last night was everything. I can't stop thinking about you. Call me soon. T. I stared at it for a long time. Joanna. That's my wife's name. It's not a common one. Not like Sarah or Emily or Kate. Joanna. My Joanna. For a second I thought maybe it was a joke. Some coincidence. Maybe this T person had a different Joanna in mind. There are plenty of women in the world. Could just be bad luck. But my gut didn't buy it. It was the way it was written. Familiar somehow. The tone, the confidence. Like it wasn't the first note, just the latest in a series. I turned the napkin over. Nothing else. No number, no date. Just the lipstick and the words. My chest felt tight. Joanna was still asleep upstairs, curled under the duvet in the position she always took after a late night of reading, book still open on the nightstand, glasses slightly askew. She looked peaceful, like nothing was wrong. I slipped the napkin into my wallet and tried to shake it off. But I couldn't. I couldn't let it go. When she came downstairs later, hair tousled and sleepy, I made her coffee like I always do. She smiled and kissed my cheek and asked how the trip was. I watched her like I was seeing a stranger. Hey, I said gently, sliding the napkin across the table. This was in the pocket of the coat I brought back. Pretty weird, huh? She picked it up, barely glanced at it before setting it back down like it was nothing. What is this supposed to be? I don't know. Just thought the name caught my eye. She gave a short laugh, but there was no warmth in it. So now you think I'm sneaking around, leaving lipstick on bar napkins for someone named T? Is that what we're doing now? No, I didn't say that. I just found it and thought it was strange. That's all. She didn't blink. Didn't ask to see the jacket. Didn't ask where I found it. She didn't even seem curious. Instead, she turned it back on me. You know, I really don't appreciate being accused of something I didn't do. Especially after everything I've been doing lately. Working, keeping things together while you're off at your conferences. I didn't accuse you, I said, still calm. I just asked. Same thing. That was the end of the conversation. She walked away like it didn't matter. But something had changed. After that morning, there was a chill in the air that hadn't been there before. It was subtle but unmistakable. Little things. The way she stopped saying goodnight or how she avoided sitting next to me on the couch. The way her phone never left her hand. How she suddenly started sleeping with it under her pillow. How her smiles came less often and her words got clipped. I tried to let it go. Told myself I was imagining things. That I was being paranoid. That maybe I really had just picked up a stranger's jacket and the note was nothing more than an unfortunate coincidence. But the feeling didn't go away. A few nights later, I came home from work and found her in the kitchen, dressed like she was about to head out. Tight jeans, makeup done, her favorite perfume, the one she only wears on birthdays or anniversaries. She looked stunning. Like the girl I fell in love with. But not for me. Going somewhere? Work dinner. Last minute thing. Just got the invite. I nodded, trying to smile. Want me to drive you? She hesitated just for a second. No. I'll take an Uber. I might be drinking. She left without saying goodbye. That night, I sat on the couch with the dog, the TV on mute, just staring at the front door. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But I couldn't shake the image of that napkin in my mind. I stayed up late. Later than usual. She came back after midnight, tipsy, her laugh too loud. She smelled like perfume and wine and something unfamiliar, something not hers. She kissed me on the cheek, told me I worried too much and went straight to the shower. I stayed there frozen. That was when I started paying attention. To the way she always kept her phone face down. To the notifications she cleared the moment they appeared. To how she suddenly had to work late twice a week. To the new underwear I never saw her wear around me. One night, I picked up her coat to hang it up. There was a faint scent clinging to the collar. Cologne I didn't wear. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I kept that napkin in my wallet for weeks. Tucked behind my driver's license like a splinter I couldn't pull out. Sometimes I'd take it out and look at it again. Try to imagine what kind of man signs his notes with a single letter. Try to picture what kind of night could be summed up in so few words. Try to understand what had changed in my marriage without me even noticing. She didn't mention it again. Didn't ask what I did with it. Didn't seem concerned at all. That told me everything I needed to know. It wasn't just a coincidence. It was a message meant for someone. And I had picked it up by accident. The wrong coat, the wrong pocket, the wrong napkin. Or maybe the right one. Maybe fate has a cruel sense of humor. Maybe I was meant to find it. Because after that, nothing felt normal again. And somewhere deep down, I knew I wasn't crazy. I just hadn't been paying attention. Until now. I started noticing things I should have seen months ago. Maybe even a year. But when you're in it, when you trust someone, you don't connect the dots until they're practically outlined in neon. That napkin was the match. And now that everything was burning, I could finally see the blueprint. It was in the details. Her perfume changed subtly at first. She used to wear something warm, vanilla and amber. But suddenly it was floral. Sharp. Distant. When I asked, she said she was just trying something new. A gift from a coworker, she claimed. It was always some new phase, some excuse I didn't question. That was the theme, really? I didn't question. She bought new clothes. Tighter. Brighter. Not her usual taste. I used to be the one she asked about dresses or shoes. You like this, she'd say, twirling in the mirror. Now she didn't ask. She just wore them and left the house with a smile that never reached her eyes. Then came the gym. Joanna wasn't someone who cared about fitness, not in the obsessive way. She had her walks, her yoga videos. But suddenly she was hitting spin class 3 times a week. Makes me feel alive, she said one night, toweling off sweat, cheeks flushed. I remember thinking she did look good glowing, even, but not for me. It was a glow I hadn't seen in a long time. And it didn't belong to me anymore. Weekends used to be ours. Grocery runs. Movie marathons. Breakfast at the little diner on 8th. But lately she had work events. Networking mixers. Team-building retreats. They always landed on Saturdays. Always out of town. Always last minute. You're welcome to come, she said once, half-heartedly, already knowing I couldn't. My schedule wasn't flexible like hers. I was a consultant tied to deadlines, clients, and a small staff that depended on me. She knew that. She'd already calculated my absence into her plans. Then there were the dinners she missed. At first, it was just the occasional one. A client meeting that ran long. A headache. Traffic. Then she missed our anniversary. Said she'd completely forgotten. Made it up with a bottle of wine and half-hearted apology s*x I didn't even want. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering when I'd become a fixture in my own house. Furniture. Comfortable. Unnoticed. Her phone became her lifeline, but not for me. She was always holding it, guarding it like a secret. She turned off message previews. Changed her lock screen. Started sleeping with it under her pillow. When it buzzed, she smiled like it had told her a joke, and when I asked who it was, she shrugged. Nobody. Nobody made her laugh. Nobody messaged her after midnight. I started saving *TS. Little things. Calendar events that didn't match. Instagram posts that disappeared. A dinner tagged with a friend, then untagged minutes later. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was finally seeing what had been right in front of me for months. There was one night I still think about. She was getting ready to meet coworkers for drinks. She put on red lipstick. The same shade from the napkin. I stood in the doorway just watching. You look different, I said. She froze for a beat. Just long enough for me to notice. Is that a bad thing? No. Just different. She didn't answer. Just grabbed her purse and left. That night I sat in her office. She left her laptop open. She never did that before. I don't know if it was carelessness or arrogance, but I took it as a sign. An invitation. Her email was clean. Too clean. But I found an old folder buried, barely named, full of scraps. Calendar invites. Confirmations. A message from a hotel about a romantic couple's package sent to her personal email, forwarded accidentally. I opened it and felt something break in me. My wife, the woman I had loved, trusted, fought for, was planning things I didn't even know to be suspicious of. I closed the laptop and sat there, staring at nothing. I should have confronted her right then, thrown it in her face. But I didn't, because part of me was still hoping I was wrong. That there was a version of the story where I misunderstood everything. That she'd tell me I was crazy and it would be true. But deep down I knew. The napkin wasn't a mistake. It was a warning *T from the universe. The moment everything truly clicked was at a friend's birthday party. Joanna and I used to be joined at the hip during these things. We'd laugh, clink glasses, gossip on the drive home. This time we arrived separately. She said she had to stop by the office first. When she showed up an hour late, she acted like nothing was wrong. Didn't even look for me. Just smiled, made a beeline for the host, and slipped into the crowd. I watched her from across the room. She wasn't avoiding me. She was just existing in another world. One I clearly wasn't part of. That night, I lay awake next to her, listening to her breathe. I watched her phone light up at 1:13 a.m. She didn't stir. I saw the name, just an initial. T. It was him. The same one from the napkin. The same one from the lipstick. The ghost I couldn't name until now. I wanted to wake her, to hold the phone in front of her face and ask her who the hell he was. But I didn't, because what was the point? She'd lie, or worse, tell the truth. And I wasn't ready for the truth. Not yet. Instead, I took the phone and photographed the screen. The messages were locked, but the notifications said enough. Pattern. Long ignored. Everything made sense now. The weekend she said she was going out of town for a college reunion. I already knew the truth. I knew it down to my bones. Still, I pretended. I kissed her goodbye at the front door, told her to have fun, and stood there, watching as she pulled out of the driveway with her suitcase neatly packed and her playlist already queued up. She waved, smiled. The same smile she used when she used to love me, back when things were still real. As soon as she was out of sight, I moved. This wasn't impulsive. I planned every step. Before she left, I installed a GPS tracker under the frame of her SUV. It was small, silent, and sent updates directly to my phone. I hated doing it. Felt like something a jealous teenager would pull. But the ache in my chest said I needed answers, even if I had to dig them out myself. I packed a bag, booked a room in a cheap motel about 10 minutes from the supposed reunion venue, and hit the road. It wasn't hard to trail her. She didn't bother covering her tracks anymore. Maybe she thought I was still in the dark. Maybe she just didn't care. The GPS pinged her location just outside the city, right near the university she claimed she was visiting. But she wasn't heading to campus. She pulled into a hotel parking lot. Not a chain. Not one of the cheap ones. Boutique. High-end. Romantic. A place with mood lighting in the lobby and wine waiting in the rooms. I parked across the street. Waited. And then I saw him. Tall, fit, maybe early 40s. Sharp haircut. The kind of man who looked like he cared too much about his appearance but got away with it because women found it charming. He walked toward her car like he'd done it 100 times. Comfortable. Confident. Joanna got out, met him halfway. She was wearing a white blouse tucked into tight black jeans, heels she hadn't worn in years, and that same perfume that used to be for me. They embraced, not a hug. Not even close. She melted into him, their mouths finding each other without hesitation. Like this was routine. My stomach dropped. I snapped a photo through the windshield. Then another. My hands were steady, surprisingly so. I always wondered what I'd do in this moment. If I'd freeze, if I'd scream, if I'd charge across the street and demand answers. But I didn't do any of that. I just watched. Quiet. Focused. They went inside. I stayed in the car. For over an hour, I sat there with the engine off, staring at the building, playing with my wedding ring. I hadn't taken it off in years. I twisted it back and forth, thinking about the vows we made, the plans, the future we'd sketched out in late-night talks and early morning coffee runs. All of it unraveling behind tinted hotel windows. Eventually, I checked the GPS again. Still there. I waited a bit longer, then drove to my motel. The room was dim, smelled faintly of bleach and old cigarette smoke, even though it claimed to be non-smoking. I didn't care. I sat on the edge of the bed with the photos on my phone and stared at them. Joanna's face, alight with something I hadn't seen in years. The way she leaned into him, like he was home. I barely slept. I don't think I even closed my eyes. The next morning, I went back. They came out around 10. She looked rested, happy. Her hand slipped into his as they walked to the car. She laughed at something he said, tilted her head back like she used to with me. I watched as he opened the passenger door for her. Gentlemanly. Polished. Fake. I followed them again, this time at a greater distance. The GPS showed a stop about 20 miles out, a roadside motel off the highway. Smaller, seedier. No need for elegance now. They were already past the pretense. I parked 2 lots over. Walked along the shoulder until I could see their room. Curtains drawn, but the thin kind, the ones you can still make out shapes through. I waited. Maybe an hour. Maybe 2. I don't remember. At one point I saw them. Shadows moving behind the curtain. Her silhouette unmistakable. His arm reaching for her. I couldn't hear anything. Didn't need to. There was nothing left to guess. I took a final photo and walked back to my car. Drove to a gas station, bought a disposable USB drive and copied every image, every GPS ping, and every message I'd saved. Then I formatted my phone. I didn't want to look at any of it again. That night, I drove back home in silence. No music. No podcasts. Just the sound of the tires humming against the road and my own breathing. I could feel the shift happening inside me, like someone turning a dial and draining the last bit of feeling from a body. Anger. Sadness. Betrayal. It all burned out in that car ride. I got home just after midnight. Joanna wasn't due back until the following evening. I sat in our kitchen, the place we used to eat pancakes on Sundays, and stared at the life we built. The photos on the fridge. The wedding picture in the hallway. The stupid his and hers coffee mugs she bought when we were still trying to be cute. And I knew I was done. Done asking questions she'd lie to answer. Done pretending I didn't already know the truth. Done being a footnote in her story while she starred in someone else's. She came back the next day looking tired but content. Gave me a kiss on the cheek and told me the reunion had been so refreshing. I nodded. Said I was glad she had fun. She didn't notice the flash drive sitting in the drawer. She didn't see it coming. But I did. She was asleep when I left. That was important to me, that I didn't have to look her in the eyes one last time. I didn't want to see whatever version of Joanna would show up that morning. The innocent one, the irritated one, or the tired woman who acted like marriage was just another chore she didn't sign up for. I couldn't face any of them. I had nothing left to say. It was around 4 a.m. I moved through the house quietly, like a ghost in my own life. Everything I touched, I measured. Everything I packed, I asked myself one question: did I own this before her? Before the wedding? Before the slow erosion that brought me here? A single duffel bag. My passport. A few folders. The laptop I bought before we were even dating. 2 watches. My dad's old flannel. I left the expensive suits, most of them were gifts from her. She liked to dress me like I was someone I wasn't. Someone flashier. I didn't want them. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom for a long moment. She was curled on her side, mouth slightly open, breathing soft. Her hands stretched toward the empty side of the bed, like she was reaching for something she couldn't find. I didn't feel anything. No grief. No hate. Not even regret. Just finality. In the kitchen, I placed the flash drive on the table. I didn't label it. I didn't need to. She'd know what it was the second she saw it. It contained every photo, every GPS log, every date stamped **T. I even included a folder titled Hotel Reservations, which listed the places she thought were secrets. Beside it was a manila envelope containing a copy of the legal separation papers. Filed. Notarized. All the details handled in advance. My signature already there. All that remained was hers. I didn't leave a note. What could I possibly write that wouldn't sound weak or bitter or like I was hoping for some last flicker of guilt? There was no poetry in this. No final message to tug at her conscience. This wasn't about punishment. It was about extraction. I stepped out into the dawn with a duffel over my shoulder and a prepaid phone in my pocket. My old one was on the table, screen cracked slightly, an accident from weeks ago, but fitting now. I left it there, still logged in. Let her dig through it if she wanted. Let her see just how quiet my side of the story had become. I drove to the edge of the city, ditched my car at a long-term parking lot near the train station, and hopped on the first outbound line. Didn't matter where. Just away. My plan wasn't polished. I had no dramatic escape route or off-the-grid hideout. But I had resources. Savings she didn't know about. Old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Names from the past, safe and distant. The first few days were disorienting. I stayed in a cheap cabin outside a lakeside town I remembered from a work trip years ago. There was no TV, no Wi-Fi, and only spotty cell service. I told myself that was good, that I needed the silence. But truthfully, it was maddening at first. I kept imagining her waking up. The slow build to realization. Her walking downstairs, seeing the flash drive. Her shock. The frantic texts. The anger. The guilt. The calls to friends trying to find me. The moment she realized she didn't know how. She'd call my parents, except I warned them. Sent a letter 2 days before I left. Told them I was okay but needed space. I asked them not to engage with her. They didn't ask questions. They never liked how she spoke to me when she thought no one was listening. She'd probably visit our friends, though I doubt she'd admit to everything. Joanna hated looking bad in front of people. She'd twist the story, make it about me being unstable, jealous, overworked. But some of them would know better. Some had seen the cracks forming. Some had stopped inviting us out because they couldn't stand the performance anymore. In the cabin, I made a list of names. People I'd need to inform. Services to cancel. Accounts to transfer. Lawyers to call. It was mechanical, clinical, but it kept me moving. By the end of the first week, I started to breathe easier. I rented a small place under an alias. 1 bedroom, month to month. Cash. No traceable trail. I picked up a temporary job through an old contact. A freelance project for a client who owed me a favor. I shaved the beard I'd grown. Changed my hairstyle. Simple things. But enough. I created a new email. A new phone number. A new life. I kept waiting for the guilt to hit. But it never came. What did come was peace. A strange, almost haunting quiet. There were moments, small ones, when I'd hear a song or smell a particular scent and it would crack something inside me. But not because I missed her. Because I missed who I was before her. Who I had let myself become in trying to keep something broken alive. She texted me. I knew she would. First it was, Elias, please, just call me. Then, you don't understand. We can talk about this. Then, you can't just disappear. That's not fair. You can't do this. And then, I'm sorry. Okay, just come home. I never responded. Eventually, the text stopped. The calls dwindled. I assumed she moved on to trying to track me through other means. But I'd closed those doors too. Every lead she could follow had a dead end. I was air. I didn't vanish out of cruelty. I vanished for survival. I needed to break clean not just from her, but from the version of myself who tolerated what she'd become. I needed to start from nothing. Strip away the titles, the roles, the labels. I wasn't her husband anymore. I wasn't someone's mistake. I was just a man, figuring out what mattered again. I thought a lot about the years we had. The good ones. The laughter. The inside jokes. The stupid traditions. And I didn't deny them. They were real. But so was the betrayal. And if the betrayal could happen, the rest couldn't stand untouched. I was learning to live with both truths. I made a rule for myself: no social media, no looking back, no curiosity about what she was doing, who she was seeing, how she was spinning the story. I didn't need to know. I had to believe that the version of her I saw in that hotel window was the real one. Anything else would be a lie, I told myself to dull the edge. After 3 months, I stopped looking over my shoulder. After 6, I started using my real name again in certain circles. After 9, I started sleeping through the night. Joanna, if you're reading this someday, if you ever stumble across this by accident or design, I hope you understand one thing. I didn't leave because of what you did. I left because of what it revealed. About you. About us. About me. You can spend the rest of your life rewriting the story. Blaming the coat. The napkin. The question I asked. But deep down, you know this ending was written long before I picked up the wrong jacket. You just didn't expect me to turn the page. They say silence is loud when you've been left behind. I used to think that was poetic nonsense. Now I know it's the truest thing in the world. Joanna didn't collapse the moment I walked out. Not visibly, anyway. She was the kind of woman who ran hot with denial. For the first few weeks after I disappeared, she doubled down on the performance. Held court among friends. Leaned into the image we'd both worked to construct for years. He's just going through something, she told them. He needs space. The story changed depending on the audience. Sometimes I was a man on the edge, a husband having a midlife crisis. Other times I was the villain, cold, distant, obsessed with work. Some friends believed her. Most didn't. And a few quietly stepped away. Because here's the thing about keeping up appearances. It costs. And eventually, the check comes due. The mortgage was in both our names, but I had removed my autopay the week I left. She'd grown used to the bills being invisible, paid on time, behind the scenes. My doing. When the first missed payment notice came, she probably rolled her eyes, assumed it was a bank glitch. By the second, she realized something was wrong. The utilities followed. Water first, then electric. I had shut off all auto-renewals from our shared account and redirected my salary to a private one. She must have tried logging in and realized she no longer had access. That account was gone, closed, cleaned out, redistributed. The fridge broke sometime in month 2. I only know this because a mutual friend, formerly mutual, texted me out of nowhere. She came by today. Asked if I knew how to fix a compressor. She looked worn out. I didn't reply. Joanna had always been the kind of person who believed the world owed her stability. She never learned how to budget, how to fix things, how to survive discomfort. That had been my role. My quiet labor. My invisible scaffolding holding her life up. And once I was gone, it all started to crumble. She tried to hold onto the affair partner, the man I'd seen her with. I don't know his name, never cared to. But from what I pieced together later, he was married. Probably told her the usual lies. I'm leaving her. You're different. We have something real. But those stories only work in the shadows. When the lights came on and I vanished, he bolted. I imagine he didn't sign up for the fallout. For a woman with unpaid bills, a house falling apart, and a paper trail of betrayal now sitting on her kitchen table. Maybe she begged him to stay. Maybe she tried to shift the blame. Or maybe he did what I should have done years ago, walked out without looking back. By month 3, she was alone. I know because that's when her daughter moved out. Joanna had a daughter from her first marriage, Sophie. A good kid. Smart, intuitive. She'd never called me dad, but we had a bond. Quiet respect. She saw more than she said. I always suspected she knew Joanna's version of love was flawed. But she didn't say anything. Loyalty to a parent is complicated. One night, Sophie called me from a blocked number. I hesitated, then answered. Hi, Elias, she said softly. Sophie. There was a pause. Neither of us sure how much we were allowed to say. She told me what happened, she continued. Sort of. I think she's lying. She's good at that. Yeah. I'm sorry. You don't owe me anything. She does, she said quietly. But she won't say it. I didn't ask what she meant. She told me she was moving out. Said she couldn't watch her mom pretend everything was fine. Said she'd seen messages before, long before I ever found the napkin. Said she felt complicit just by keeping quiet. You didn't know what to do, I said. I still don't. You did the right thing now. That's what matters. She asked where I was. I told her I couldn't say. But I thanked her for the call. And I told her she deserved better than the example her mother set. I hung up and cried for the first time since I left. Not for Joanna. For the girl who deserved a whole house but only got rooms with closed doors. After Sophie moved out, Joanna started losing friends. The ones who mattered, at least. The dinner party crowd fell away first, the ones who liked the curated version of her. The Instagram friends, the charity board allies, the brunch set. They stopped calling. Uninvited her from things. But the hardest blow came from her best friend, Marla. Marla and Joanna had been inseparable for years. Wine nights. Vacations. Whispered phone calls. Marla had stood beside her at our wedding, gave a toast about love and second chances. But Marla knew. I'm sure of it. Knew about the affair, probably even covered for her once or twice. She called me too. I should have told you, she said, no preamble. You knew. For months. Why didn't you? I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't think you'd vanish. And now? She's not the woman I thought she was. She never was. Marla told me she confronted Joanna. Asked her if she felt any remorse. Said Joanna just shrugged and called me dramatic. Said I'd always had trust issues. That's when Marla walked away. I'm sorry, Elias, she said. If it means anything now. It does. A little. I don't know if Joanna cried when Marla left. I imagine she did. But not for the loss of the friendship. For the loss of the mirror. Joanna needed people to reflect her image back at her. Without them, she had to look at herself. And she hated that more than anything. Months passed. The garden died. The lawn grew wild. Notices piled up at the door. Someone painted over the graffiti on the side of the mailbox, probably the city. The house was losing its shine, its order. Just like the woman inside. I don't know what broke her finally. Maybe it was a final bill she couldn't pay. Or a dream she couldn't fake anymore. Maybe it was a voicemail that never got returned. Or waking up one morning and realizing the silence was permanent. That I wasn't coming back. Because I wasn't. Not for answers. Not for closure. Not for her. Weeks turned to months. Joanna didn't stop trying right away. I expected that. Her pride wouldn't let her accept silence without a fight. It started with texts, short, pleading ones. I miss you. Please call me. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. Then came the emails. Longer. More desperate. Apologies stitched between justifications. One line would say, I never meant to hurt you, and the next would accuse me of abandoning her. I never replied. Not once. When she realized I wasn't listening, she turned to others. She called my former coworkers, old college friends, even my barber. One mutual friend messaged me saying Joanna had offered to pay him if he could get my address. He blocked her after that. Said, she's spiraling, man. You made the right call. Eventually, she hired a private investigator. I only knew because a man followed me from the post office one morning, too close and too clumsy. I took a hard left into an alley and looped behind him. When he realized I was watching him, he walked off without a word. That same week, I changed apartments. New lease. New name on the mailbox. I even switched cities. Joanna, from what I heard secondhand, started to come undone. She lost her job, performance issues, one source said. Too many days calling in sick. Too many meetings missed. And then came the drinking. Sophie mentioned it once in a message she sent months later. Said her mom was numbing things. Red wine before noon. Calls in the middle of the night that she wouldn't answer. Said it was like watching someone unravel thread by thread. I tried not to feel anything. But late at night, I'd lie awake wondering what version of me she imagined in her head. The man who left without a word. The coward. The heartless one. She didn't see it as consequence. She saw it as betrayal. But that's the thing about people like Joanna. They only feel regret when the mirror cracks. She started showing up at places we used to visit. I learned that from a former neighbor. Said she sat alone at the old coffee shop for hours. Said she asked the waitress if she'd seen me. She hadn't. No one had. I was careful. Eventually, her messages changed. No more anger. Just sadness. I'm not okay. I don't know how to live without you. If you ever read this, just know I never stopped loving you. I read that last one 3 times, then deleted the entire inbox. Because love, a real love, doesn't hide in lies and motel rooms. It doesn't leave lipstick on a napkin meant for someone else. Nearly a year later, I saw her again. It wasn't planned. I was in Santa Fe walking through a quiet art gallery on a rainy afternoon. I'd come to see a new exhibit, modern landscapes, soft brushwork, a peaceful sort of melancholy. The kind that fits a person trying to rebuild. The gallery was small, nearly empty. Just me, a young couple by the entrance, and a woman halfway down the corridor, standing in front of a painting with muted blue tones. It took me a moment to realize it was her. Joanna. She looked thinner. Her hair was darker, pulled back loosely. She wore a beige coat and flats, nothing like the curated outfits she once lived in. There was a softness to her now. Not gentleness. Just less armor. She wasn't alone. A woman stood beside her, maybe a friend or a companion. They weren't touching, but their body language was familiar, comfortable, quiet. The kind of closeness that doesn't need explaining. I froze. My instinct was to leave. To disappear again. But she turned. And for a second, we locked eyes. She didn't gasp. She didn't cry. She just looked. Studied me like I was another piece on the wall, familiar, distant, unchangeable. Then she nodded. Slow. Almost like a bow. I nodded back. No smile. No wave. She turned back to the painting and I walked past her without a word. Out into the soft drizzle, heart steady, hands calm. That was the last time I saw her. And maybe that was how it needed to end, not with shouts or tears or forced apologies. But with a quiet glance in a room full of quiet things. She saw me. She saw the life I chose. And in that moment, I think she finally understood. Peace was never something I could find with her. Only after her.